All rise, we will away. The International Criminal Court is now in session. Lord John to Court Panel International at 08.
The closing statements in the case of the prosecutor versus Ali Muhammad Ali Abd-Al-Rahman were held from the 11th to the 13th of December 2024 at the seat of the International Criminal Court in The Hague, the Netherlands. During these hearings, the prosecution, the legal representatives of victims, and the defense presented their final closing arguments before Trial Chamber 1, comprised of Presiding Judge Joanna Corner, Judge Ren Alapini Gansu, and Judge Althea Violet Alexis Windsor. The accused, Mr. Ali Muhammad Ali Abd-Al-Rahman, was present in the courtroom. Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman, the alleged leader of the Janjaweed militia, is accused of 31 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity allegedly committed in Darfur, Sudan, between August 2003 and at least April 2004. These crimes include directing attacks against the civilian population, murders, pillaging, rape, persecution, torture, cruel treatment, and other inhumane acts. During the hearings, the prosecution team, comprised of Karim A.A. Khan KC, OTP senior trial lawyer Julian Nichols, trial lawyers Edward Jeremy, Laura Morris, and Alison Whitford, presented the prosecution's closing statements. The prosecutor, Mr. Karim A.A. Khan KC, addressed the significance of the proceedings to many, including the victims in this case.
Madam President, Your Honours, this is obviously a very important day for justice, for the office, for the court, for victims, and not only the victims, the civil society that are in the gallery, but those that are watching or waiting for justice that they have yearned for almost 20 years. Your Honours, during the course of this trial, you've heard from numerous witnesses, you've had the opportunity to assess their demeanour and hear their accounts, and they have so eloquently and clearly underlined how deeply they crave justice, they want peace, and they want to return to their homes that they have left and sometimes they have moved from again and again.
Further, Prosecutor Khan submitted that the consequences of the crimes allegedly committed on the people of Darfur during the 2003 to 2004 charge period should not be forgotten. While time cannot be turned back on those events, the trial process can show tangible evidence that the rule of law means something, and it is vindicated by fair and impartial judges. In addition, Mr. Khan further said that the prosecution's evidence presented during this trial has proven beyond reasonable doubt that the accused committed the crimes he is being charged with.
We say clear that overwhelmingly the evidence demonstrates that the conduct that has been alleged by the prosecution has been committed, and we've proved it, we submit, beyond reasonable doubt in relation to all of the charges, by the conduct of the accused in this case, Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman, also known as Mr. Ali Kushaib. And we say, Your Honours, not only have we established in relation to the charges the elements of the offence, but also importantly that at all material times the accused in this case was a senior Janjaweed member, a leader, and was actively involved in the commission of offences, willingly and enthusiastically.
OTP senior trial lawyer Julian Nichols and trial lawyers Edward Jeremy, Laura Morris, and Alison Whitford made further submissions regarding the different aspects of the prosecution's case, specifically on the scope of the charges, the prosecution's evidence in this case, the prosecution's witnesses and their testimonies, the accused and the alleged crimes committed during the charge period, the prosecution's evidence showing the accused is Mr. Ali Kushaib, the Janjaweed as an organization and the role of the accused within that group, the attacks in Kudum, Pindisi, Mukja, and Dilej, and the multi-generational effects of crimes committed during the charge period. In addition, the prosecution team raised several overarching issues regarding the defense's closing brief, such as the defense's claims about the fairness of the trial, their arguments on jurisdiction, among other issues. During their submissions, the prosecution showed presentations, photographs, maps, audio, and video material before the chamber. OTP senior trial lawyer Julian Nichols asserted that the accused, Mr. Ali Muhammad Ali Abd-Al-Rahman, is Mr. Ali Kushayb, and that he is responsible for the charged crimes.
I'll begin today where I did in my statement at the opening of this trial. I'll say it again. The militia leader who terrorized Wadi Salah, Mukhtar, in 2003 to 2004, Ali Kushayb, is in the courtroom with us today. He's sitting over there behind his counsel. I said we would prove it, and we have. The trial has proven beyond any reasonable doubt that the accused with us here today is the man responsible for the charged crimes committed in Kadum and Bindisi, Mukhtar, and Dalej. Based on everything I've gone through today and everything you've heard throughout this trial, the accused, Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman, is Ali Kushayb, the Ali Kushayb who committed these crimes. The evidence is overwhelming. It's beyond reasonable doubt. He's guilty, each and every one of these charged crimes.
After the prosecution's submissions, the common legal representative of victims in this case, Ms. Natalie van Wistinghausen, together with Mr. Anand Shah, made submissions on behalf of their 1,592 clients who were admitted by the chamber to participate as victims in this case. Ms. Wistinghausen noted that her clients were all individuals who had unique views, histories, sorrows, and hopes. Ms. Wistinghausen presented a series of photographs as well as excerpts of audio and video messages from her clients to the chamber.
The participating victims can, of course, convey to your honors with far more eloquence and meaning what has befallen them over the past 2 decades. Khadija, she's a survivor of the charged attack on Kudum, and who lives as a long-term displaced person near the town of Mukhtar, sent the following message for your honors last month, which we will now play.
In the past, we lived a prosperous life filled with happiness and joy. We had wealth in the form of sheep, cows, camels, and other assets, even transportation methods that helped us continue our lives. One of our traditions was during wedding ceremonies when livestock such as sheep and cows were given as dowry. This helped families secure financial stability for the newlyweds to start a stable life and build a family. Additionally, when we needed to purchase other items like clothing, we often exchanged them for livestock. However, the Janjaweed took all our wealth and left us with nothing. They displaced us to other places in search of safety, but we have not found it to this day. During the search, Dalej was under siege and 18 men from our family were taken and killed. And they left us, the women. However, they did not limit their actions on men, and during the search, we were about 18 displaced women who were subjected to rape. A large number of us developed severe infections that led to infertility.
In addition, Ms. Wistinghausen read quotes from some of the participating victims. Some have expressed their sorrow and pain of what they have endured during the 2003 and 2004 conflict in Darfur, while other participating victims hope that this trial may give them justice. Throughout all of the audio and video messages from the participating victims, the LRV passed a clear message that the victims want justice. Ms. Wistinghausen, during her submissions, talked about the conflict of the civil war in Darfur during the charge period and the generational impact it had on the communities, which continues to the present day. Regarding the role of the victims before the ICC, Ms. Wistinghausen noted that the participating victims have placed their trust in the ICC with their continuous engagement and participation in these proceedings, despite the numerous obstacles they face. Ms. Wistinghausen further addressed legal issues that were raised by the defense counsel of Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman in their closing brief before giving her colleague, Mr. Anand Shah, the floor. During his submissions, Mr. Anand Shah addressed 3 issues in relation to the closing brief of the defense.
As indicated by Ms. von Wistinghausen, I will be addressing 3 subjects in relation to the defense final brief, the first of which is the defense's challenge to the court's jurisdiction under the principle of legality, which is set out in Part 2, Chapter 1 of the defense brief. Now, our position on the matter of jurisdiction is set out in Section 3 of our final brief, and we fully rely on those submissions, Your Honor. So my intervention today will focus on the defensive submissions on the foreseeability element of the legality test, as articulated by the appeals chamber in its judgment 503 in these proceedings, as well as the defense's submissions on the Sharia law principle of Hanima. So let me start, Your Honors, by noting that the participating victims have consistently expressed an abiding belief in the criminal and sanctionable nature of the conduct captured by the confirmed charges. Our clients would find the defense position that an individual in the circumstances of the accused would not have understood the charged conduct to be unlawful and subject to prosecution utterly baffling. And we say that the participating victims would be right to be baffled, Your Honors. Under the appeals chamber's test, the foreseeability assessment requires taking into account, among other criteria, the flagrantly unlawful nature of the crimes charged and the circumstances of the accused. And this is covered in paragraphs 85 and 88 of the appeals chamber judgment.
In her final submissions, Ms. Wistinghausen further talked about the harm suffered by the participating victims, which included physical, psychological, economic, material, and cultural harm. She also addressed the deplorable living conditions in the IDP camps and the effects it had on the displaced victims. She concluded by asking the chamber for justice for the victims. After the presentation of the legal representatives of victims, the defense, on behalf of their client, took the floor to make their final closing statements. Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman's defense team consists of lead defense counsel Cyril Lauchi, associate defense counsel Ian Edwards, and Audrey Matteo, who presented their closing statements. The defense presented several topics, including the victims in these proceedings, Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman as an individual, matters regarding a fair trial, the jurisdiction of the court, the credibility of the prosecution witnesses, several crime scenes, knowledge of the policy of the state and persecution, the 3 lines of the defense, among other topics that were raised by the chamber, the parties, and the participants. First to take the floor was Mr. Lauchi, who addressed the victims in this case.
La défense adresse ses pensées aux victimes.
And the defense addresses its thoughts to the victims of 2003 and 2004 who have still not received any reparations. At the very beginning of this case, in July of 2020, the defense made proposals so that victims could receive reparations without waiting and irrespective of the outcome of this trial. These proposals are still relevant, and the defense remains determined to support them if they are taken up again by our colleagues, the legal representatives of the victims, especially in the case of the acquittal of Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman. Justice done to the victims must not be justice at the price of convicting an innocent person, because this conviction would only add another injustice to the injustices the victims have suffered.
Mr. Ian Edwards, Associate Defense Counsel, also made submissions about various matters, including the credibility of the prosecution witnesses, as well as crime scenes related to this case.
I turn to submissions on the 3 crime scenes of Courtroom, Bindisi, Mukjar, and Deleg, and we'll take those in turn. Can I start with one point, and it's a point that is of relevance to all 3 of the crime scenes. It is the defense case that Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman was not present at any of these crime scenes at the material time. He's not Ali Kusheb. Whether or not a person called Ali Kusheb was present or not, we do not know. All that we can say is that Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman was not.
Mr. Lauchi made further submissions about his client, Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman. The defense counsel talked about the accused joining and serving in the army as a nurse for over 20 years. After the army, the accused opened and operated a pharmacy in Gasila, treating humans. The accused belonged to the Taisha tribe. According to the defense, Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman was a scapegoat offered by the Sudanese government to divert the attention of the court.
What the evidence of Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman being a scapegoat does tell us, however, is that he is not important in the eyes of Sudanese authorities. He is what in international criminal law is referred to as a small fish without importance or real authority. He is a pound of flesh sacrificed to Shylock as in The Merchant of Venice. Now, is this pound of flesh innocent or guilty? That is for you, Your Honours, to determine. In light of the totality of the evidence, once you are satisfied that the court is competent and the trial is fair, in your deliberation you will take into account of the fact that the Office of the Prosecutor failed to carry out the minimum verifications that Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman was indeed Ali Kusheb, and, on the contrary, presented evidence that he was not. That the OTP claimed to establish that he was Agid al-Ogada, and as such that he was a Janjaweed leader, without defining these 2 terms, and therefore failed to prove this, and also failed to prove the mental element common to all crimes. And on these grounds, and as a consequence of all the other grounds raised by the defense, you will acquit, Your Honours, Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman of all the charges against him.
The accused, Mr. Ali Muhammad Ali Abd-Al-Rahman, took the floor to make submissions before the chamber. He confirmed that he was born on the 1st of January 1949 in Sudan and that he belonged to the Taisha tribe. He further said that he joined the army at 15 years old and was trained as a nurse. He worked in the army for 27 years before he left to open his pharmacy. Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman recalled that he treated all who came to his pharmacy equally and without discrimination. About the charges brought against him, the accused recalled that he surrendered and came to the court freely, and that he had nothing to do with the accusations. The accused also addressed being called Ali Kusheb.
I said on the phone that my name was Ali Kusheb because I had been waiting for 2 months in hiding, moving around all the time. And I was warned that the government wanted to arrest me, and I was afraid of being arrested. I was desperate. The court did not want to talk to me if I did not say that. So as soon as I said it, they started taking care of me. But that is not true. I am not Ali Kusheb. I don't know this person. I ask for the forgiveness of the court for this lie.
After the accused finished making his submissions, the defense team finished their closing statements. After the parties and participants presented their closing statements, The 3 judges of Trial Chamber 1 questioned the parties and participants regarding various matters that arose. Following the closing statements, the judges will commence their deliberations, and the judgment will be pronounced in due course.